Hello, everyone, and welcome back to EasyTalk English, the place where we slow down and learn English the way people really use it. I hope wherever you're listening from right now, you feel relaxed and ready to think a little deeper with us. Today's topic is something many intermediate learners secretly struggle with, even if they don't always say it out loud.
Yes, and I want to start with a very honest sentence that I've heard so many times. Learners tell me, I know the words, I know the rule, but when I speak, my brain just freezes. They understand would, they understand have, they know past verbs, but when everything comes together, it suddenly feels confusing.
That moment when your mouth opens and nothing comes out is so frustrating. You feel like you studied enough. You watched videos, you read examples, but in real conversation, your confidence disappears. And today we're talking about one structure that causes this reaction again and again: would have.
Let's ask a simple but powerful question. Why does would have feel scary? It's not a long sentence, it's not advanced vocabulary, but for many B1, B2 learners, it feels heavy and complicated.
I think part of the problem is this. Most learners are taught the formula, but not the feeling. They memorize would plus have plus past participle, but they don't really understand what it means emotionally. And English is not just grammar, it's emotion and intention.
Exactly. And when you don't understand the feeling behind a structure, you hesitate. You start thinking, is this correct? Is this the right tense? Am I mixing times? And while your brain is checking rules, the conversation moves on without you.
So if you're listening right now and thinking, yes, that's me, please hear this clearly. Confusion at B1, B2 level is completely normal. In fact, it's a sign that you are growing and moving into more complex English.
You are not bad at English just because one structure feels difficult. Even strong learners need time to feel comfortable using past, unreal situations. The good news is, once you understand the meaning deeply, it becomes much easier.
In today's episode, we're not just learning a structure, we're going to explore the emotion behind would have. We'll talk about regret, reflection, missed chances, and even politeness, because this structure appears everywhere in real-life conversations.
By the end of this episode, I don't want you to just recognize would have in movies. I want you to feel confident using it naturally when you speak about your own experiences.
So take a deep breath, relax your shoulders, and stay with us. We're going to understand this step by step, calmly and clearly, and remove that frozen feeling together.
All right, Linda, let's slow everything down and focus on the heart of the structure. If we remove the grammar fear and just talk about meaning, what does would have really mean?
At its core, would have talks about a past possibility that did not happen. It describes something that could have happened in the past, but in reality it didn't. That's the key idea, and once you understand that, the structure feels much less scary.
So we're not talking about a real past action. We're talking about an imagined past, right? A past that existed in our intention, but not in reality.
Exactly, and I like to break it into three simple elements: intention, no action, and reason. First, you wanted to do something. Second, you didn't do it. Third, there was a reason why it didn't happen.
That makes it very clear. Let's use a simple example. Imagine yesterday I wanted to help my friend move to a new apartment, but I got sick. Today I say, I would have helped you, but I was sick.
Perfect example. That sentence shows your intention, you wanted to help. It shows the action didn't happen because you didn't go. And it shows the reason, which was being sick. All three pieces are there.
Now let's compare that with the simple past. If I say, I helped you, that's a real action. It actually happened. There was no imagination there, just a fact.
Yes, and that's why mixing these two forms creates confusion. If you say, I helped you, but in reality you didn't, the meaning becomes wrong. Would have helped protects the meaning because it shows the action stayed in your mind, not in real life.
Another example many learners understand emotionally is exams. Imagine someone says, you failed the exam, and you reply, I would have passed, but I was very nervous.
That sentence carries emotion. It shows ability, but also disappointment. You believe you had the skills to pass, but something stopped you. This is where we start to see that grammar is not just about time, it's about feeling.
Yes, because would have often carries regret or reflection. When we look back at the past and think, if things were different, the result would be different, we naturally use this structure.
Exactly. It's the language of what could have been. When someone says, I would have called you, but I lost my phone, you can hear the regret inside the sentence. It sounds softer and more human than just saying, I didn't call you.
I love that comparison because it shows the emotional difference. I didn't call you sounds cold and direct. I would have called you shows that you cared even if the action didn't happen.
And this is such an important insight for intermediate learners. Grammar expresses human emotion. It's not just a technical tool. It helps you show intention, disappointment, politeness, and understanding.
So instead of memorizing the formula first, try to remember this meaning: past possibility that didn't happen. When you feel regret, reflection, or a missed chance, your brain will naturally look for would have.
Yes, and when you connect grammar to real emotions in your life, it becomes easier to use. You are not just building sentences, you are expressing your story, and that's what real English is about. Now let's bring this structure into real life, because grammar only becomes clear when you see yourself inside the sentence. Imagine you had a job interview last week, and afterwards you felt disappointed. You might say, I would have answered better, but I was too nervous.
That sentence feels very real. It shows that you believe you had the ability, but your nerves stopped you. If you just say, I answered badly, it sounds final and heavy, but I would have answered better shows reflection and possibility.
Yes, and this is common in professional situations. Suppose your manager asks, why didn't you attend the meeting? Instead of replying, I didn't come, you can say, I would have attended, but I had another urgent task.
That difference is huge. The second version sounds responsible and respectful. You're not blaming anyone and you're not sounding careless. You're explaining the situation calmly.
Exactly, and this is why native speakers use this structure so often in work environments. It makes you sound thoughtful and emotionally intelligent. It shows intention, not just result.
I've noticed that in emails too. Instead of writing, I didn't reply earlier, people often write, I would have replied sooner, but I was traveling. It feels softer and more polite.
Yes, because English culture values soft communication. Direct sentences are sometimes necessary, but in many social or professional situations, people prefer language that shows care and understanding.
Let's move to relationships, because this structure is even more emotional there. Imagine you forgot your close friend's birthday. That's already uncomfortable.
Very uncomfortable. Now compare these two sentences. I didn't call you versus I would have called you, but I completely forgot the date. The second one shows regret and intention. It sounds more human.
Yes, the first one sounds cold and maybe careless. The second one shows that you cared and you wanted to act differently. Even though you made a mistake, the sentence carries warmth.
And that warmth is important in relationships. English is not just about correct grammar, it's about emotional intelligence. The words you choose can either build connection or create distance.
I really agree with that. When I say, I would have helped you, it shows willingness. It tells the other person, I was on your side, even if I couldn't act. That builds trust.
Yes, and in romantic relationships or family situations, this structure appears very naturally. For example, I would have told you earlier, but I didn't know how to explain it. That sentence shows honesty and reflection.
And it avoids sounding defensive. If you just say, I didn't tell you, the other person might feel hurt. But when you use would have, you show your internal process.
This is why I believe learning structures like this improves more than your grammar. It improves how you communicate your emotions. You become more careful with meaning and more aware of how your words affect others.
That's such an important point for B1 to B2 learners. You're not just learning English to pass exams. You're learning how to sound natural, respectful, and thoughtful in real conversations.
Exactly. So when you practice would have, don't only think about the rule. Think about moments in your life when you felt regret, missed a chance, or wanted to explain yourself kindly.
Because when you connect the structure to your real experiences, it stops being scary. It becomes a tool that helps you express your story clearly and warmly. Now that we understand would have for actions, let's talk about something very similar but slightly different: would have been. Many learners hear it often, but they're not always sure when to use it.
Yes, and the difference is actually very logical. Would have usually talks about an action that didn't happen, like I would have called you, but would have been often talks about a state, an experience, or a feeling that didn't happen the way we expected.
So we can say would have helped for an action, but would have been helpful for a situation or condition. One is about doing something, and the other is about how something felt or existed.
Exactly. Let's use a daily example. Imagine there was a party last weekend, but you arrived very late. You might say, it would have been fun if I had arrived earlier. That means the fun part was already over.
I like that example because it's very realistic. The party happened, but your experience was different from what it could have been. You were reflecting on a different possible past.
Yes, and this structure is very common when we talk about trips. For example, the trip would have been amazing if the weather had been better. You're not talking about one action, you're talking about the overall experience.
So if we simplify it, would have is usually followed by a verb like gone, done, said, and would have been is followed by an adjective or description like fun, easier, better, amazing.
That's a very helpful pattern to remember, and emotionally, would have been often carries a softer tone. It allows you to express disappointment without sounding angry.
For example, imagine someone didn't join your presentation at work. Instead of saying, you should have been there, which sounds strong, you can say, it would have been helpful if you had joined. That sounds calmer and less aggressive.
Yes, and this connects to culture again. In English-speaking environments, people often try to reduce conflict by using softer language. Would have been helps you express your opinion without directly blaming someone.
Let's take a family example. Suppose your brother forgot to tell you about an important event. You could say, it would have been nice to know earlier. That sentence shows your feelings, but it doesn't attack him.
Exactly. It shows emotional nuance. You are expressing a small disappointment, but in a gentle way. This is why this structure is so useful in real life.
Another common example is with invitations. If someone invites you somewhere but you can't go, you might say, it would have been great to join you. You're showing appreciation even though the event didn't happen for you.
And notice how warm that sounds. You're not just saying, I couldn't come. You're showing that you value the invitation. That emotional layer makes your English feel more natural and mature.
So to summarize the difference, would have focuses on the action that didn't happen, and would have been focuses on the result, experience, or feeling that didn't exist in reality.
Yes, and both structures help you talk about imagined past situations. They allow you to reflect, express regret, or soften your message in social situations.
And when you start noticing this in movies or conversations, you'll see how often native speakers use it. It's not advanced grammar for exams. It's everyday language for thoughtful communication.
Exactly. When you understand the emotional nuance behind would have been, you're not just learning a form, you're learning how to express feelings with care and clarity in English. Now let's talk about mistakes, but in a calm and friendly way. Mistakes are normal, especially with structures like would have, and when you understand why they happen, they become much easier to fix.
One very common mistake is forgetting the past participle. Learners sometimes say, I would have go, or I would have eat breakfast. The structure feels almost correct, but something is missing.
Yes, and the missing piece is the past participle. It must be I would have gone or I would have eaten breakfast. A simple way to check yourself is to ask, is this the same verb form I use with have in present perfect?
Exactly. If you can say, I have eaten, then you can say, I would have eaten. The pattern is the same. So instead of panicking, just remember that would have follows the same verb form you already know.
Another mistake is using would have without giving a reason. For example, someone says, yesterday I would have gone to the gym, and then they stop. That sentence feels incomplete.
Yes, because we're waiting for the reason. Would have usually needs a condition or explanation. You need to add something like, but I was too tired, or but I had no time.
That's right. Remember the three elements we talked about: intention, no action, and reason. If one of those parts is missing, the sentence sounds strange.
Another common problem is mixing time. For example, learners say, I would go to the party yesterday, but I was sick. That mixes past and future ideas in one sentence.
Yes, and in that situation, the correct form is I would have gone to the party, but I was sick. When you're talking about a past situation that didn't happen, you need would have, not just would.
There's also the problem of overusing the structure. Some learners discover would have and then start using it everywhere, even when simple past is enough.
That's very true. If something actually happened, just use simple past. For example, I went to the store. There's no need to say I would have gone unless the action didn't happen.
So why do these mistakes happen? I think it's because learners focus too much on the formula and not enough on the meaning. They try to remember the rule instead of asking, did this action really happen or not?
Exactly. When you focus on meaning first, the form becomes clearer. If you know you're talking about a past possibility that didn't happen, your brain will naturally look for would have.
So instead of memorizing 10 rules, just ask yourself one simple question. Am I talking about a real past action or an imagined one? That question alone can guide you.
And remember, mistakes are part of progress. Every time you correct yourself, you move one step closer to speaking more naturally and confidently.
Now let's talk about the moment that scares most learners. You understand the structure, you can recognize it while listening, but when someone asks you a question, your mind suddenly goes blank. That panic is very common, and today we want to reduce it.
Yes, and the first tip is very simple. Buy time in conversation. You don't have to answer immediately. You can say, let me think for a second, or that's a good question. These small phrases give your brain space to build the sentence.
I love that, because many learners think they must answer quickly to sound fluent, but fluency is not speed. Fluency is clarity and calm thinking.
Exactly. Now let's turn a flat answer into a natural one. Imagine someone asks, why didn't you join us yesterday? A flat answer is, I was busy. That is correct, but it sounds short and cold.
Now listen to this version. I would have joined you, but I had a family commitment. Do you feel the difference? The second answer sounds warmer and more connected.
Yes, and here's another example. Someone says, why didn't you tell me earlier? A flat answer is, I forgot. But you can say, I would have told you, but it completely slipped my mind. That sounds more natural and emotionally aware.
Let's try a mini dialogue. I'll start. Did you enjoy the trip?
It would have been more enjoyable if the weather had been better. That sentence shows reflection and feeling, not just information.
Good. Another one. Why didn't you apply for that job?
I would have applied, but I wasn't confident enough at that time. Again, intention plus reason.
See how natural that feels when you slow down? The secret is not memorizing many sentences, it's understanding the pattern and practicing out loud.
Yes, speaking out loud is very important. Even if you were alone at home, try creating small sentences about your day. For example, I would have exercised, but I felt too tired. It doesn't need to be dramatic.
And remember, fluency is more important than perfection. If you make a small mistake with the verb form, that's okay. Communication is about meaning first.
I always tell learners this. Focus on expressing your idea clearly, not on being 100% perfect. When you relax, your brain works better and the structure comes more naturally.
My personal advice is to connect this structure to your real life. Think about one thing this week that didn't happen the way you expected. Build one honest sentence about it using would have or would have been.
Yes, when grammar becomes part of your real story, it stops feeling like a school exercise. It becomes a tool for self-expression.
So breathe, slow down, and trust the process. The more you use it in small ways, the less your brain will freeze.
Exactly. Confidence grows through practice, not pressure, and you are absolutely capable of using this structure naturally. Let's gently bring everything together before we finish today. We learned that would have is not just a grammar formula. It means a past possibility that did not happen, and it usually includes intention, no action, and a reason.
Yes, and we also saw that this structure carries emotion. It can express regret, reflection, politeness, and even kindness. It helps you sound more thoughtful instead of cold or direct.
We also talked about would have been, which focuses more on experiences and feelings. It allows you to describe how something could have felt different in the past without blaming anyone.
So instead of being afraid of this structure, try to see it as a tool. It helps you tell your story more clearly and express your intentions in a softer way.
Now, we'd love to hear from you. Think about your recent week. When would you have used this structure? Was there a moment when you missed something, forgot something, or wished something had been different? Write one sentence in the comments using would have or would have been. Keep it simple and real. Practicing with your own life is the best way to remember.
And if this structure once felt scary but now feels clearer, give this episode a like. It helps us know that these deep grammar conversations are useful for you.
If you enjoy learning grammar through real-life meaning instead of dry rules, subscribe to EasyTalk English. We're here to help you build confidence step by step.
Thank you for spending this time with us. Keep noticing, keep practicing, and remember, grammar is not about perfection.
It's about expressing your thoughts with clarity and confidence. See you in the next episode.
Take care and keep learning.